Thank you so much, Cassandra. Appreciate all the support from you and the library. Welcome, everyone, to the last seminar for 2024 here for the NOAA Fisheries EBFM seminar series, which we continued back in November 2017. We did this really to increase awareness about ecosystem-based management and highlight the progress NOAA and our partners are making to enhance and implement EBM. And we're happy today to have Jai join us to talk a little bit about some of the tools that are very instrumental in terms of helping us with advancing EBM. The NOAA Library continues to be a valuable co-host to the series, and we really welcome their support. We continue the series, and we will continue it into January next year on the second Wednesday of each month from 3 to 4 Eastern Time. And so if you have any colleagues that are unable to see today's presentation, you could always view these seminars on the NOAA Library YouTube channel. So let me begin by welcoming Jai Ranganathan. He is an ecologist with the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, and we welcome him today. He is a doctorate in ecology and is here to share with us some of the work he has done with regard to web development for the National Marine Sanctuaries and for the Integrated Ecosystem Assessment Program, which we work very closely with through all the line offices. So I'll turn it over to you, Jai, and I welcome you and thank you for joining us today. Appreciate everything you've done.
My pleasure. Just want to make sure that everyone can hear me.
Yes, you're coming through nicely. Thank you very much,
Well,
Jai.
spectacular. I just want to correct a small thing in the slide that went out that said I was a marine ecologist, and in true transparency, I am not actually a marine ecologist. I knew nothing about fish, water, boats. How I ended up at NOAA, I don't even know, but somehow I'm here. I am an ecologist, though. So with that, let's get started. So I have a key message for you, which is this. Sanctuary Watch, it's the best. But we need to do some unpacking here before we get to that statement. What Sanctuary Watch? Who am I? Who am I even to say what the best might be? Well, I turned out to be an expert on things that are bestest because I'm Jai Ranganathan, PhD, and I have a PhD in osmology from the finest institute of osmology in all the land. So I know when things are awesome and best. And the first thing that's best before we get to Sanctuary Watch is Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, where I'm at right now in Santa Barbara, California. Here we are, Anacapa Island. See, it's awesome, is it not? But I've been told that when you give a talk, you should lead off with your take-home message, the message you want everyone to come home with. Well, here it is. You're the best. All of you listening, every single one. We here at NOAA, we're just a cut above. Are we 30% more attractive? At least. Are we slightly more intelligent? I'm not going to say so, but it might be true. And you're all listening to me, which speaks very highly of you today. So that's the take-home message. You're the best. But I do have a secondary message, which you've already heard, which is, well, Sanctuary Watch is the best. Well, what does that even mean? By the way, I want to focus in on this AI-generated dinosaur picture. What I love best about it is it says Sanctuary Watch 3 times, twice of which it's misspelled, which I enjoy. But, so, what if we unpack this? What is the take-home message? Well, it might be this. We built a website infrastructure for Sanctuary Watch. Then you, yes, you, listening to me right now, you can use to connect larger audiences to your science. Okay, let's get into it. So I hear another thing I've heard about good talking techniques. I'm good at talking, maybe, is you're supposed to have an outline. Bam, here we are. We have an unimpressed dinosaur looking at it with a hipster hat, which is fitting kind of weird on his head. Here's the outline. So you want to create awesome websites to show you're off your awesome science? But you know what? Creating those awesome websites, well, not so easy. Well, turns out we here at National Marine Sanctuaries and partners, we might just have a solution for creating these awesome websites to meet your needs, your exact needs. And we're going to give a case study of Sanctuary Watch and the grand finale. Use our web architecture. Please flock in. We're excited to have you. So let's get started. You want to create awesome websites to show off your awesome science? Well, let me tell you something that you already know. We here at NOAA, we produce awesome we produce awesome science. This came out in Science recently. Rapid ozone depletion after humidification of the stratosphere by the Hunga Tonga eruption. This dinosaur, he's impressed, and why shouldn't he be? Another piece of awesome science. This came out in Pier J. Spring haul-up behavior of seals in the Bering and Chukchi seas. Implications for abundance estimation. This science, it put this dinosaur's hair back. Look at that. It's like blown back. That's how good the science is. And we are super good at connecting the science, not just in papers, but in other ways like data dashboards to other science specialists. Like, look at this guy who not only is writing things down very cleverly, he also has both of his eyes on the same side of his head in a Picasso-like way. That just speaks to how strongly he's looking at the science, I think. So we here at NOAA are great at coming up with data dashboards, maybe not using like an example data set like Palmer penguins, but just generally, we're great at connecting our science via papers and via sort of data portals to scientific audiences that really are really with us in the same space. But there's a bit of a challenge here. And what's that challenge? Is how do we connect our awesome science better to broader audiences? Well, that's not so easy. We all know that. And maybe, just maybe, can we imagine that we're going to use an awesome website infrastructure to connect larger audiences to our stuff? Is it possible? I don't know. All right, here's a problem. Creating those awesome websites, well, it's not so easy. So there's lots of ways to build an awesome website. As you know, well, maybe you're going to do something in build something in R, put it up in Shiny, or maybe Python's more up your alley. You can do something with the Jupyter notebook. Maybe you're a JavaScript person. You're going to do it in Observable. Hell, maybe you're just going to say, I'm just going to use a JavaScript framework like Svelte or React. There's all sorts of these ways, plenty more, to create really incredible websites that are really appealing and really engaging with all sorts of different kinds of people. But there's an issue, which is this: creating these sorts of websites via Svelte or React or Observable, et cetera. Well, it takes a lot of expertise, takes a lot of time, and it's probably kind of expensive. You have to write a lot of code. Maybe your team knows how to write a lot of code, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're dealing with a really large team, some of whom are coders, some of whom aren't. Maybe your team is all coders. But they're busy doing a million other things, doing that great NOAA science I just talked about. So in that case, how there isn't time for them to work on this stuff, even if they've got the expertise. The capacity often is hard to come by to put together these awesome websites for broader audiences. Well, could there be a solution here? I don't know. Well, there just might be. So the question is, can we build a web architecture to help us build these science-driven websites for larger audiences that exactly matches NOAA's needs, where we've got so much science expertise, but not a lot of extra capacity, and we're trying to match that. So, I went to NOAA and I asked, NOAA, what do you want? And NOAA said, what do I want? Yeah, I said, yeah, NOAA, tell me, Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And then NOAA said, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. I'll tell you. Oh my God, stop. This is too terrible. This is too dumb. I was going to do a whole Spice Girls joke. Shouldn't they be Spice Ladies at this point? I'm going to keep going. That's the end of the Spice Girls joke. So the question is, what does NOAA want? So what would make for a great website for building websites for connecting larger audiences to a science message? Well, we need to make this website easy to use for people entering the content. That's the staff here at NOAA and other partners. That's super important. If it's something where we have to get on the command line, for a lot of us, that's just either we don't know how or we just don't have the time to do that. So it needs to be something that's easy to use. Okay, but it has to be easy to use. But secondly, it also still has to have the features we need to really show the science content we want, to update the science content we want. So it has to be able to deliver the goods. Okay, third, it has to be appealing to end user, like these two dancing dinosaurs. I mean, look how happy they are, thinking of how great this website's going to be. It has to be appealing to them. And the last piece, most important, this website has to be easy to maintain, because we don't want to just create these like interfaces to connect the public. For now, we want it to something that we can create it and we can keep using it for a while. And that's only going to happen if we're using some sort of web architecture, well, that's easy to keep rolling. So what might we do? Well, it turns out one thing we can do is use a highly customized WordPress interface. For those of you who don't know, WordPress is what's called a content management system, to use a technical term. It's a way to show a website, to build and to display a website, which is used a lot. In fact, it's used for over a third of the web, in fact. Now, but I know what you're saying. Now, Jai, isn't it just for blogs? I mean, like, I've got to show some complex scientific data to larger audiences. WordPress, that's not going to work, right? Well, you are wrong. There's awesome websites coming out of the technical wizards. These two dinosaurs, they are technical wizards. Look at them. They've got hats on. That shows how technically wizardry they are. There's awesome WordPress sites coming out of NCOS, IUS, and other places. Now, you might be wondering, these technical wizards, what is that thing in that wizard's hand? To me, it's very clear that is spring water, because here at NOAA, we eat clean and we drink clean. That's what we do. So here is the case study. So where we're going to show what we built out, this highly customized WordPress interface for sanctuary needs. So using something called Sanctuary Watch. So what is Sanctuary Watch? Whoop, wrong way. So before I get there, I should say, this isn't just me. There's a whole team of people doing this with me. And we're not just here. And I'm just a guy. They, on the other hand, they're not just heroes. They're superheroes. I do hate the fact that we have to wear form-fitting spandex all the time. And why do I always have to be holding the trident? It's like, I don't hold the trident anymore. Say we're an aquatic agency, you have to hold the trident. So I'm holding a trident all the time. Not a big fan, but there's a whole bunch of people, both in sanctuaries and partners, working to make this happen. So what's the problem? And look at this guy. He's upset. You should be upset too. Is that the problem is, it's the year 2024, almost 2025. And the primary way that National Marine Sanctuaries gets information out about the state of the science and state of trends, scientific trends in our sanctuaries is via these very long reports called condition reports. So, for example, what's stats and trends of biological resources, meteorological, climatological trends, et cetera, how that gets released is via these 400 to 500 page telephone books of documents. Do we still have telephone books? Well, if we had a telephone book, this would be a good one. These 400 to 500 page documents, which get released every so often for every sanctuary. But here's the problem. These documents are a huge lift for sanctuary staff to write. Problem two is that these are not exactly so easy for stakeholders to read, if they're going to read them at all, because it's this giant doorstop of a document. And three, it's not because it's so hard to put together. These aren't updated all that often, you know. So if you're wondering what happened, if one of these documents comes out 2 years ago, and you wondered, well, what's happened in the sanctuary in the past 2 years? If you just look at these documents, you're out of luck. So can we do better? So the point of these condition reports is to reach out to larger audiences with a scientific message from sanctuaries. Can we do better? Not to replace condition reports, but to because there's always going to be a role for condition reports in sanctuaries, but can we at least have more updated information available to stakeholders and for management as well? That's the problem we're trying to solve here. So the site, it's Sanctuary Watch. It's available at sanctuarywatch.iuse.us. And I got to mention here, one of our key partners, it's iUse. Now, iUse, these guys are heroes. I mean, here we are, all working together in partnership. Again, they're also into the form-fitting clothing. I'm not a huge fan, but I was just in DC. I saw these iUse guys. They're in such great shape. Like, if you get it, you flaunt it. I get it. And we've got other partners too. Another huge partner along the way has been IEA, the Integrated Ecosystem Assessment. And Iron Man, or as I like to call him, IEA Man there. The light he has, that's the light of IEA that's coming out of his hand. That's how that works. So IEA has been a key partner for all of this work. So here's kind of how this site works, and here's kind of the layout of how the web architecture we've been building. So the idea here is that we've got clickable infographics or clickable images which link to scientific information intended for larger audiences. So here's an example for one of our scenes for Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. Here's the overview scene. And if you were to hover over something there, if you hover over many things on each of these scenes are clickable. If you hover over something, it highlights in that color or other colors. And if you were to click on that, you'll end up with a window popping up with information that we think managers and other people ought to know to drive management will need for making choices, and for other stakeholders to know as well. In this case, we've got sea surface temperature over a period of many years, and because this is a interactive JavaScript-enabled figure, we can zoom in on parts of it. So here we can see before, like the date range, I don't know, 15, 17 years, something like that, but we can sort of zoom in, zoom out. As the data is updated, this sort of auto updates. So this problem of, the condition report where the data is updated, however long they can get to that report, which is not as often as we'd like. Now we can start to update figures at the speed the data is updated. And we don't just have to do interactive figures like this. We can also do sometimes we can also just do static figures. Sometimes it's coming out of a paper or something like that. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of the kind of information or the kinds of that we can put in here as well. I should mention, so the key idea of this is, so if you kind of look at this is kind of a site that's kind of built kind of at this view anyway, is sort of set up for desktop view. But most people these days, they're not on desktops all that often, right? They're mostly on tablets, mobile. So this is all set up to sort of have to be responsive to that. So we've got a separate mobile view. And see, this dinosaur is excited to see it. So I've got a short video here to demonstrate what this would look like if you're looking like this on your if you can see here, if you scroll up, there's still the text, and it's sort of built in it sort of rebuilds itself in a totally different way to work better for mobile. You got some text, you have the image, but it's hard to click on that image. So you don't worry about the image. All the icons are pulled out, and it makes it easier to see what you're actually doing. So we've got a mobile view here. And we also have a tablet view. This guy, this dinosaur, he knows what's up. Is he singing into the microphone? It does look like he's singing into microphones. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. So if the code detects it's on a tablet, um, everything that's clickable in an image instead of will sort of hover in and out. So there's sort of different changes made because if we want web architecture to work to meet people where they are, we got to make it responsive in the ways that people are using it, which is mostly mobile and tablet. So our infrastructure does do that. But let's talk now about what this looks like. So we talked a lot about the user experience, but let's talk about what this is like to actually use if you're a staffer at NOAA or where else entering data. And it's just web forms. We've all done web forms. It's easy. There's no coding involved. It's just a bunch of fields. You fill them out. That's it. Here's an example. If you've ever done anything in WordPress, that should look awful familiar. These are just sort of custom fields in a WordPress framework. So just entering. We've all done this. Web forms. This is a web form. Easy. And because there's a lot of error checking built in, sort of checking for errors. I'll show you an example here where I made a mistake on purpose. And you'll notice up top, it says up top, there says near the top, the first thing says scene created or updated. Then below that, it says warning or warning in scenes. And it's giving a flag because there's some problem that you need to go take care of. So there's a lot of sort of error checking built into this to sort of check for errors that people might make. So currently for Sanctuary Watch, we've got 4 sort of what we're calling instances in there. We've got information for the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary, Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary, and also it's not a sanctuary exactly, but for an issue that affects all of the sanctuaries, which is sound or sound pollution mostly, but just sound. We're not going to call it sound pollution, just sound. But there's tons more coming online. We're very excited because we have interest from a huge number of sanctuaries. A lot of them are onboarding now to be part of this, so they can be part of putting their information into this as well. Plus, not just the sanctuaries, but designations. We have 2 brand new sanctuaries that are coming online, which will also be part of this as well as designations as well. So I should mention, cautionary note, that's why this dinosaur has a traffic cone, because there's a moment of caution. If you go to Sanctuary Watch right now, it's not running on the WordPress architecture. It's running on an earlier version of how we built this, but that will be changing in the next few months. So it's not the WordPress site now, but it will be, but the look and feel will be very similar. So you look at it, it's going to look now as it looks then, but the back ends are being swapped out to what I'm presenting right now. Okay, grand finale. So thanks to our partners, our wonderful spandex-clad partners at iUse, all of our code is available through the repository. iUse's GitHub. Let me rephrase that. iUse has a repository in GitHub, and we've got like a sub-repository there called Sanctuary Watch. All of our code is there. Look at this guy. He's so happily coding, working on commits for Sanctuary Watch. He's working hard. He's smiling. He's happy. We're all happy. It's great. So all our code is available at the iUse repo for GitHub. And the site is sanctuarywatch.iuse.us. The code is at github.com/iuse/sanctuarywatch. And the Jai, aka me, is available here. And I really do want to emphasize the infrastructure we have built here. It's been very much set up so that we're using in the case of Sanctuary Watch. But it's not just meant for Sanctuary Watch. Because it turns out our problem is that we are a site with a lot of ambition, but not a lot of extra capacity to connect to larger audiences. Well, it turns out lots of other people have the exact same problem. So the thing that we have built to solve our problems is going to probably solve one of your problems too, maybe. So our code is ready for here to use. Now, one thing I should say is that please do talk to me, because we're still working through the documentation is not as good as it will be in a few months. So if you just went to the code right now, you might get a little lost. And I'm sure you have a lot of questions of what can the code do. This is a very high level overview, of course. So I'm sure you have a lot of questions of, can this do this? Can do that? Like, how does this fit in? Where do you host? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So please come talk to me. I'd love to talk to all of you. It would be my excitement. This guy would too. Look how smiley he is. He'd love it. He'd love it. I'd love it. All the dinosaurs would love it. So please come talk to me. We can talk about how to make this work for you. So again, the take home. We built a website infrastructure for Sanctuary Watch that you can use to connect larger audiences to your science. But really, that's just a small point of a larger message, which is you're the best. Never forget it. Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you, Jai, for your presentation. And audience, we have time to answer your questions, and we would love to hear them.
Cassandra, this is Peg. I'm going to start by asking a question of Jai. First of all, thank you for such an enthusiastic presentation. This is very, very helpful. Thank you so much. Quick question, and don't know how best to approach it, but you talk about the myriad of audiences that many of us are trying to reach, and I'm just curious whether there's been any evaluation of or tests with focus groups on Sanctuary Watch as an example, and if you've gotten any feedback from some of these audiences as to the value it's serving them.
That's a great question. So the question of we're making the claim that this is useful for communication. Well, is it? And I think my answer is that we haven't run formal focus groups. What we have done is presented to larger groups, for example, education and outreach teams, to the groups that we'd want to use, SAC committee, Sanctuary Advisory Council members, the people who we consider to be in some of our core audiences, and they have responded extremely enthusiastically about the product we're building.
Great, thanks a lot.
All right, and we have a question that came in through the audience chat. Thank you, Jai. I'm not a webmaster, so don't know all the technical details of this. I'm with Fisheries, which is using Drupal. Can we use this code on a Drupal site, or should we investigate building something out with iOS to do more data visualization?
Another great question. So Drupal and WordPress, I do a lot of Drupal stuff as well, actually, for the IEA site. Drupal and WordPress are both content management systems. They're both ways to run a website. But you wouldn't run Drupal on top of WordPress or WordPress on top of Drupal. There's two separate ways to run a website. So you would want to be running the site entirely in WordPress or entirely Drupal. So this site can't be done in just Drupal. It's a WordPress specific thing. And by the way, I should say that though a lot of NOAA and Fisheries does a lot of Drupal, even in Fisheries, it's not just Drupal. There is Fisheries with it. There are people running WordPress sites in Fisheries also. From a technical side, it's not really all that different running a WordPress from a server configuration standpoint. It's not all that different running a WordPress site and a Drupal site. And Fisheries does both. By the way, I would like to apologize for messing up the Spice Girls so badly. I got my rhythm all off. It was terrible.
It's the pressures of the live stream. It's okay.
I'm telling you.
All right. So we had a question that came in. Are there similar tools or functions in Drupal?
I don't think so. Let me rephrase that. Not that I am aware of. Drupal, of course, is a large system of people doing things, so I only know what I know. But I do work as a Drupal person for the IEA site, and I haven't run anything like this at all for in the Drupal ecosystem. If there is one, I'd love to know.
Hi, Jai. Really great presentation. Is there a way to compare multiple data sets over one another, like pelagic fish presence and temperature, just as an example?
So this is a great question. So this really gets at what have we thought of this site for? So you might think different audiences are going to use data and like scientific information in different ways. So, for example, if you are a more of a scientist type, you might want to really play with the data yourself, maybe download it, run it in your own data, whatever tools you are, Python, whatever, for analyzing your data. But different audiences require something different. So we are really thinking of this being for audiences where we are sort of deciding ahead of time what we think these audiences need to see. So we're not on purpose, we're not including a lot of abilities to turn things on, to turn things off, because we're saying, hey, wait a minute, we think for these sort of end users, we'll have a set of, it's really set up like the visualizations we think they need to see. Now, that being said, there are ways to sort of do compares and contrasts as well, but this is really intended as sort of a more of a digested product, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
So let me interrupt and say that I really am. If anybody's got even questions that you even things like, oh, that's so dumb. Like, no, like my whole purpose of being here is to really encourage. Like, I think we built something I think other people would want to use for your own purposes. And so I really would be very eager to continue the conversation with any and all, about, does this, I mean, I'm sure you're like, even if you have a 2% thought, like, is this useful for me or my group or my team or my department or whatever? Like, please do get in touch. I would love to sort of connect, to sort of figure out, is there a way to make this work for you? And we're really quite motivated to get others to use the stuff that we built.
Well, thank you, Jay. I really appreciate this. This is wonderful. Really enthusiastic and a lot of food for thought for a lot of folks that are working out there and trying to communicate with many different audiences, especially here in fisheries. I just want to announce that on January 8th is our next speaker for the beginning of the year. Jane Haugen, who's a postdoc at Northeast Fisheries Science Center, is going to speak about strategies for advancing global ecosystem-based management. So come back and join us on the 8th, same time. And again, if anyone has any more questions for Jai, feel free to forward those to his email address. And again, thank you so much, Jai, for jumping in here today and giving us such an enthusiastic overview of Sanctuary Watch. It's great.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you for sharing your work with us, and thank you for organizing today's seminar, Peg. And audience, we hope to see you all next month. Thank you for attending.